History beyond sleep. The place where history's darkest secrets refuse to stay buried. Tonight,
the desert does not shout, it remembers. And in the soft hush of twilight, when the last colors bleed from the sky and stars slowly take their places, it begins to speak not in words, but in warmth, stillness, and wind-blown memory. Here in this silent sea of gold and ochre, one shape rises like a thought too old for speech. The Great Sphinx of Giza. She, though some call her, he has watched the dunes shift for untold centuries. Her face, regal yet worn, peers eternally to the east, where the sun is born each day. Her body, part lion, rests solemn and still, as though listening to echoes that no longer reach our ears. She is carved from the bedrock itself, not built, not placed, revealed. And that, perhaps, is the first riddle. The winds have tried to erase her. The sands have tried to bury her. And yet she endures. But why? We are taught in textbook tones that the Sphinx was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, around 2500 BCE, a guardian to his pyramid, a monument to his power, a piece of the grand funerary landscape. And yet the deeper we look, the more the story bends and blurs. Many who stand before her feel something ancient older than Egypt, older than kings, as if she remembers things the hieroglyphs no longer tell. In 1817, Giovanni Battista Caviglia led one of the first modern excavations of the Sphinx. His team dug furiously, clearing sand from its flanks, its paws, its shoulders, and in the process they uncovered not just the size of the creature, but a sense of scale that felt mythical. This was no mere statue. This was a sentinel, a silent guardian, half buried in earth, yet impossibly awake. Travelers from Napoleon's expedition described the Sphinx as terrible and sublime, as though standing before it stirred something older than logic, a kind of spiritual vertigo. What did the ancients see when they stood at its feet? And more intriguingly, what did they fear? For even in ancient times the Sphinx was a mystery. The Greeks, arriving millennia later, did not claim to know her name. They gave her their own mythology, called her the riddle giver, the strangler of Thebes, projecting their own fears onto the desert's oldest face. But the Sphinx of Giza did not belong to their tales. She did not speak riddles in verse. She was the riddle, and that riddle has remained unsolved. There are no inscriptions on her body, no builder's mark, no hieroglyphic boast. Only weathered stone battered by centuries of wind, sand, and silence. Some scholars argue she is older than the pyramids she faces. Others believe she hides something beneath her paws. Stories swirl. Some say a chamber lies deep below her, a vault untouched for thousands of years, a portal to a forgotten time. Not metaphorically, but truly. Is it possible? We begin here with possibility. The sands of Egypt are thick with stories, and not all of them are fantasy. Some are fragments, broken pieces of a deeper truth waiting to be gently reassembled. And so, like careful archaeologists of the imagination, we brush away the dust of certainty and listen closely for the whisper beneath the sand, because it is there, always soft, patient, waiting. It waits in the wind that sighs across the plateau. It waits in the footsteps of those who pass beneath her gaze. It waits in us, too, in the part of us that remembers what we've forgotten. Perhaps the Sphinx is not just an ancient monument, but an ancient question. one we still don't know how to ask Dot as night deepens over. Isa and the stars flicker above like distant memory. She does not move. She does not need to. Her presence is the movement, a stillness so complete it pulls us inward, toward something larger than history, deeper than stone. And so we begin, not with answers, but with wonder. Let the night settle in. Let the sand cool beneath the stars, and listen, not for what has been said, but for what waits beneath the silence. Before Egypt raised her golden crowns, before hieroglyphs danced across temple walls, before names like Khufu and Ramses whispered through time, there may have been something else, something older, something forgotten. Dot, it is a quiet thought, one rarely spoken in lecture halls, but it lingers like incense in a sealed tomb. Could the Sphinx belong to a civilization that existed before Egypt? We are taught to think in timelines, tidy and linear. A thing begins, it grows, and then it falls. But the earth does not think this way. The earth remembers in layers, in buried bones, in weathered stone, in forgotten floods and shifting sands, and sometimes the past hides beneath the past. That is where the Sphinx may live, not in the reign of Kafir, but long before, in a chapter of history that was erased not by time, but by water. Let us return to the riddle. The official story claims the Sphinx was built around 2500 BCE, during the 4th dynasty of Egypt. This was the age of pyramid building, of colossal ambition, of pharaohs who called themselves gods. And yet there is no inscription, no tablet, no wall relief connecting the Sphinx directly to Kafir. Only assumption, only architectural proximity. The Sphinx is near his pyramid. They say so, it must be his. But stones do not obey our logic. Geologists, quiet observers of the earth's deeper rhythms, have looked at the Sphinx and seen something strange, not the structure, but the scars on the sides of the body, just behind the head and along the enclosure walls. Deep vertical erosions cut into the limestone. These grooves are not made by wind. They are not made by sand. They are made by water. Heavy, prolonged rainfall. The kind not seen in the Sahara for thousands of years. One of the first to raise this observation was Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University. In the early 1990s, he stood beside the Sphinx and read its story not as an Egyptologist, but as a geologist might read a canyon wall. To Schoch, the evidence was unmistakable. These patterns were consistent with rain erosion, suggesting the Sphinx was carved not 4,500 years ago, but perhaps over 9,000 years ago, maybe more, a time when Egypt, as we know it, did not yet exist, a time when the Sahara was green, when rivers flowed and rains nourished the Nile Valley. This idea was radical, unsettling, because it does not just move the date of a monument. It moves the entire story of human civilization. If the Sphinx is older than Egypt, then who built it? And why? Some have pointed to an ancient era remembered in Egyptian myth, Sep-Tepi, the first time, a lost golden age when gods walked among men, when knowledge flowed freely, and temples resonated with cosmic harmony. Was the Sphinx carved in that forgotten epoch? Was it a relic not of dynastic Egypt, but of the world before? Plato, writing in 360 BCE, tells of Atlantis, a great and noble civilization swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. He claims it existed 9,000 years before his time, which places it eerily in alignment with Schoch's geological dating. Atlantis, Zep Tepi, the builders before the pharaoh's different names, perhaps for the same long-lost chapter of humanity. Of course, there is no solid proof. There are no scrolls, no blueprints, no signed foundations. Only erosion, only silence. But sometimes silence is enough to stir the mind awake. Egypt's own kings believed they inherited knowledge, that the wisdom of stone and star did not begin with them, but was passed down. We find hints in the Palermo stone, and lists of god-kings and spirits said to have reigned for thousands of years before the dynasties began. Most scholars dismiss these as symbolic or mythic, but perhaps they are remnants, the broken bones of memory, half buried in time. And always the Sphinx watches, unmoved, unanswering, but present, her body deeply weathered, her head disproportionately small, as though recarved, reshaped, given a newer face atop an older form. Is the current face that of Khafre? Perhaps, but the lion's body suggests something more ancient, more primal. Some researchers believe the Sphinx once bore the face of a lioness, a tribute to the constellation Leo, which rose directly in the east around 10,500 BCE, at the very moment the Sphinx would have faced it, a cosmic alignment, a celestial signature. Not a coincidence, but a message. Perhaps the Sphinx is not a tomb, but a clock, a monument not to a king, but to time itself. And what better way to hide knowledge than in plain sight, so vast and so old, we forget to question it. Beneath her paws, there may be more than stone, tunnels, chambers, archives. The so-called Hall of Records, a term made famous by Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, may be more than legend, but we will come to that in time. For now, we sit beside the Sphinx as the wind moves gently around us, and ask ourselves, what if we've only been reading the last page of a much older book? What if everything we know about the past begins with what we have forgotten? Let the thought rest with you, soft as the desert wind. Let it drift beside the stars above and settle like dust into the corners of your dreaming. We do not need to solve the riddle tonight, only to hear it. Only to wonder. Beneath the watchful gaze of the Sphinx, nestled between its paws, stands a stone tablet, quiet yet loud with history. This is the dream stela, erected nearly 3,000 years ago by Thutmose IV, a pharaoh whose story feels like a whispered legend from the past. The stela is not just a monument, but a message, a puzzle carved in stone that bridges dreams, kingship, and secrets buried in sand. Imagine the young Prince Thutmose, a child of royal blood, wandering the desert sands, fatigued and perhaps lost beneath the vast Egyptian sky. One day, the story tells us, he fell asleep beneath the Sphinx's imposing form. In his dreams, the lion-bodied guardian spoke. The voice was ancient, wise, and urgent. "Clear away the sand that buries me," it said, "and I shall grant you kingship over Egypt." Thutmose awoke, and soon after, as if fate had answered, he became pharaoh. The stela stands as both a record and a reminder, a testimony carved in words to a dream that changed a life. But what else does the dream stela hide beneath its surface? This chapter steps gently into that twilight space between myth and history, Where dreams shape reality and stone holds memory. The text etched upon the stela speaks of divine favor and protection, but also of a deep reverence for the Sphinx itself, the Hormaket, or Horus of the horizon. This name ties the Sphinx not merely to royal power, but to the cosmic dance of sun and stars. Thutmose's dream is a delicate thread weaving man, God, and monument together, that it suggests that the Sphinx was not only a guardian of physical realms, but also a keeper of spiritual passageways, portals between waking and dreaming. Earth and sky. As we examine the words, we glimpse the ancient understanding that monuments like the Sphinx were alive with meaning beyond their stone faces. They were vessels for messages, guardians of mysteries only partly revealed. Yet the dream stela itself is buried beneath questions. Why was the Sphinx buried in sand to begin with? Some scholars believe that natural forces caused its slow engulfment. But the stela's plea hints at something deeper, a purposeful concealment. Was the monument intentionally hidden to protect what it guarded? Or was it a metaphor for knowledge lost, waiting patiently to be rediscovered? Thutmose's restoration of the Sphinx tells us that even in his time, the monument was ancient and revered. Not a new creation, but a relic of distant memory. Stela preserves a snapshot of reverence and hope, a young prince's dream, yes, but also a whisper of older powers still present beneath the desert's quiet. From the dream stela, the Sphinx speaks of thresholds between youth and kingship, silence and voice, earth and sky. It reminds us that history is not only written in grand pyramids and royal decrees, but also in the subtle dialogue between stone and soul. As night falls over Giza, we listen for that whisper, the silent voice that reaches across millennia, calling us to look beyond the surface, to clear away the sand, and to find the doorway hidden beneath the lion's paws. The stela stands not only as a monument to a dream fulfilled, but as an invitation to dream anew, to wonder, and to seek. In the soft light of the stars, the Sphinx watches and waits, and so do we. Beneath the silent pause of the Great Sphinx lies a mystery folded deep within the earth, an invitation to the unknown, hidden for nearly a century and more. In 1926, under the hot Egyptian sun and the watchful eyes of foreign explorers, a discovery stirred both excitement and caution. A descending tunnel carved into the bedrock itself, vanishing into shadows unseen. But what was found there, and why was the passage sealed again so quickly? This chapter traces that quiet, secret journey into the depths beneath the lion's stone body. The year was a time of fervent exploration. Archaeologists and adventurers were racing to uncover the secrets of Egypt's past. Among them, the Egyptian Antiquities Service undertook a careful survey around the Sphinx, seeking to understand not just what was visible above ground, but what lay beneath. At the base of the Sphinx's paws. The explorers discovered a narrow entrance, almost swallowed by sand, and time leading downward into a carved tunnel. This passageway was not a natural fissure, but a man-made stairwell, descending into the cool, dark earth beneath the stone guardian. Reports from that time are tantalizingly sparse. The tunnel's dimensions were small, and it seemed to disappear into the bedrock with no obvious end. Those who ventured inside found nothing conclusive, no treasure chambers, no ancient libraries. Instead, they found silence, shadows, and the thick weight of secrecy. Soon after its discovery, The entrance was deliberately sealed. Sand was piled, stones were placed, and the tunnel disappeared once more beneath the desert floor. Why? Some suggest that the passage was unstable, dangerous to explore. Others whisper of politics, the need to control Egypt's past and its secrets. But there is a deeper question. What if the tunnel was not meant to be entered by just anyone? In many ancient cultures, sacred sites often included hidden chambers, accessible only to initiates or guardians. They were places of transition, portals to other realms, metaphorical or perhaps literal. Could the tunnel beneath the Sphinx be such a portal? Modern technology has since attempted to peer beneath the stone ground. Penetrating radar, seismic scans, and digital imaging have revealed cavities, voids, and anomalies under the Sphinx platform. Yet, despite these discoveries, access remains limited. Is the secret still guarded by the desert? Or by those who watch the desert? Among fringe theories and conspiracy whispers, some believe the tunnel leads to the so-called Hall of Records, a legendary archive said to contain lost knowledge of ancient civilizations. This Hall of Records is more than myth. It is a symbol, a place where memory, history, and mystery converge. The idea originates partly from the writings of Edgar Cayce, a 20th century American mystic who spoke of a vast library hidden beneath the Sphinx, waiting to be revealed when humanity was ready. Skeptics dismiss this as fantasy, yet the lure of the unknown endures. Beyond the tunnel's sealed mouth, there lies a question that calls softly. What if beneath the stone guardian, beneath the sands, lies not just a chamber, but a threshold to the forgotten? Explorers who have delved near the site speak of a peculiar stillness, a silence that seems almost alive, pressing gently against the boundaries of time. To imagine stepping inside is to enter a liminal space where history fades into myth and stone becomes memory. No one knows what truly lies beyond the sealed entrance. The desert, ever patient, offers no clues. It invites us only to listen, to feel the weight of silence beneath the paws of the lion, and to wonder. As night descends, once more over Giza, the stars above watch quietly, casting pale light onto the sands, and the great stone guardian waits for a new dawn. Perhaps one day the tunnel will be opened again, and the secrets it holds will rise with the desert wind. Until then, it remains a quiet whisper beneath the sand, a soft riddle for those who dream beneath the stars. In the twilight of the 20th century, when the world was awakening to new mysteries, a voice from the past stirred ancient dreams, the voice of Edgar Cayce, a man both ordinary and extraordinary, who spoke of secrets buried beneath the sands of Egypt. Known as the Sleeping Prophet, Cayce claimed to access knowledge beyond his conscious mind during trance-like states, revealing visions that spanned history, science, and the soul. Among his most enduring revelations was the promise of a hidden sanctuary beneath the Great Sphinx, the legendary Hall of Records. Imagine a vast underground library, carved from stone and illuminated by a light unseen, containing scrolls, tablets, and relics from civilizations lost to time. This hall, Cayce said, held the collective wisdom of ages, knowledge of humanity's origins, cosmic laws, and the pathways to enlightenment. To many, it was a beautiful myth. To others, a beckoning truth. Cayce's vision was not born in isolation. Ancient Egyptian lore spoke of hidden chambers and secret teachings reserved for the initiated. The Sphinx itself, silent and immovable, was said to guard more than a tomb. It was a sentinel over access to the forgotten. But where could this hall of records be? Beneath the pause? Within the bedrock? Somewhere lost to the shifting sands? Explorers, inspired by Case's prophecies, ventured to seek this hidden chamber. Archaeological efforts and technological advances aimed to pierce the Sphinx's mysteries, but time and secrecy stood firm. Ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys revealed voids beneath the monument, spaces untouched by human hands in recent memory, but the promise of discovery remained just out of reach. Skeptics dismissed Case's claims as fantasy, the dreams of a man entranced by his own mind. Yet the legend endures, woven into the tapestry of Egypt's mysteries like a silver thread glimmering in the dusk. The Hall of Records became a symbol, a metaphor for lost knowledge, for the secrets humanity has buried in stone and sand-dotted. Represents the yearning to connect with our past, to uncover truths that might illuminate the path forward. Case's message speaks not only to archaeologists, but to dreamers, seekers who understand that history is more than what is written. It is what we imagine and hope for in the quiet hours of the desert night. The Sphinx remains a silent guardian of these dreams. She invites us to listen to the whispers beneath her paws, to contemplate the layers of meaning carved in her ancient form. Could the Hall of Records be waiting for those ready to receive it? Or is its true place within the halls of the heart and mind, a secret unlocked not by excavation, but by awakening? As we let the desert breeze carry away our questions, we rest in the mystery itself, trusting that some truths reveal themselves only in time, and as the stars pulse softly overhead, the Sphinx watches, its silent gaze a bridge between past and future, seen and unseen. The portal it guards may not be just stone and chamber, but the eternal door of wonder. Throughout the ancient world, stone sentinels stood watch at thresholds, silent, stoic, mysterious. From the lions of Mesopotamia to the dragons of Asia, from the griffins of Persia to the Sphinx of Egypt and Greece, these guardians were more than mere decoration. They were symbols, protectors, and, sometimes, keys to the unseen. The Great Sphinx of Giza is part of this ancient lineage, a lion-bodied creature crowned with a human face, and like its cousins across continents, it marks a boundary, a place between worlds. But what exactly was it guarding? The obvious answer is the royal necropolis, the pyramid complex of Pharaoh Khafre. But what if the Sphinx's role was deeper, more symbolic, a keeper of thresholds between dimensions, times, or states of being? Guardians in mythology often protect not just places, but knowledge, wisdom, or sacred paths. They embody dualities, strength and intellect, earth and sky, the known and the unknown. The lion, with its fierce power, represents courage and protection. The human face offers intelligence and awareness. Together they form a creature of paradox, a bridge between instinct and reason. In Egyptian belief, such figures were called Sekhem, meaning power or might. They stood at temple gates and city entrances, warding off chaos and evil. The Sphinx, then, may be the ultimate guardian, a monument embodying not only royal power but cosmic order itself, known as Mat. Across cultures, guardians were sometimes believed to be portals themselves, thresholds where one could cross into hidden realms, if only one possessed the right knowledge or purity of heart. For example, in Tibetan Buddhism, lions guard sacred mountain paths. In Mesopotamia, winged bulls with human heads protect city gates, symbolizing divine vigilance and strength. The Sphinx fits within this universal language of guardianship, but carries its own unique voice. Its gaze fixed eastward, it welcomes the dawn, the rebirth of light. It watches over the horizon, where earth meets sky, where day gives way to night. This liminal space, the place of transition, is precisely where guardians belong. They hold the line between what is visible and what is hidden. And yet, the Sphinx is not just a static guardian. Its story is layered with transformation. Over millennia, it has been damaged and restored, its face recarved, its body eroded. This physical change mirrors the shifting meanings humans have projected onto it. Was the Sphinx once part lioness, a symbol of the fierce goddess Sekhmet? Was it meant to embody the solar deity Horus, the falcon-headed god of kingship and the sky? The blending of animal and human forms speaks to a belief in unity, a harmony of forces rather than division. The Sphinx is both protector and enigma, standing guard over secrets that may be hidden in plain sight. Could it be, then, that the Sphinx guards a portal, not just a physical gate, but a metaphysical one? One that opens to knowledge lost, to memories buried beneath time's sands, to dimensions beyond our ordinary senses? The ancient Egyptians understood the world as layered, visible and invisible, material and spiritual. Their temples, statues, and texts all hint at this deeper reality. The Sphinx, silent and timeless, invites us to consider this as night falls over Giza and the desert cools. The stone guardian remains vigilant, a symbol of strength tempered by wisdom, a reminder that some gates require patience and reverence. We end this chapter not with answers, but with a question. What would it mean to pass beyond the guardians? To cross the threshold they protect? Perhaps the Sphinx's greatest secret is not in stone or tunnel, but in the courage to seek, to wonder, and to believe. Rain does not fall often in the deserts of Egypt. The air is dry, the skies wide and cloudless. The sands, ancient and patient, have not felt true rain in thousands of years. And yet upon the body of the Sphinx there are marks carved not by wind or time, but by water. This quiet contradiction is where our journey now turns. In the 1990s, a geologist named Dr. Robert Schoch stood before the Great Sphinx, his trained eyes seeing not just a monument, but a mystery written in stone. The body of the Sphinx long buried, then unearthed bore deep vertical fissures, smooth channels, curving through the limestone. To Schoch, these were not the scratches of wind-blown sand. They were the scars of falling rain. Soft, steady rain, the kind that might fall for centuries. But here is the enigma. Egypt's desert has been arid for over 5,000 years. So if water shaped the Sphinx, how old must it truly be? Schoch proposed something radical, that the Sphinx might date not to the age of Pharaoh Khafre, as textbooks claim, but to a much earlier epoch, perhaps as far back as 9,000 BCE, when the climate of the Nile Valley was wetter, greener, alive with rivers and rainstorms. His claim echoed like thunder in a quiet hall. Archaeologists pushed back, defending the accepted timeline. The Sphinx, they insisted, was carved around 2500 BCE, and yet the stone told another story. one not written in hieroglyphs, but in geology. For others who stood alongside shock engineers, weathering experts, rogue historians, the evidence was compelling. The enclosure around the Sphinx, too, showed signs of water erosion. The limestone walls, shaped in soft curves, not sharp lines, spoke of centuries of rainfall cascading down and carving the earth. This revelation shifted the sands beneath Egyptology. If the Sphinx was older than the pyramids, then it preceded known Egyptian civilization. And if that was true, then who had carved it? This question did not end with stone. It spilled into the sky dot, because if the Sphinx once faced a fertile land, a Nile valley not yet dry and golden, but green and lush, then it also faced the stars. Many researchers noted the alignment between the Sphinx and the constellation. Leo, in the sky the lion, on the earth the lion-bodied Sphinx, and in 10,500 BCE, Leo rose precisely on the eastern horizon at the spring equinox, the same direction the Sphinx eternally gazes toward. Could this be coincidence? Or was the Sphinx a message across time, pointing not just to the stars but to its own birth? The possibility unfolds like a scroll of forgotten poetry. Rainwater, starlight, lion guardians, and the silence of ancient builders, each a clue, each a voice in the dark. But why would such knowledge have been hidden? Some say it was never hidden, only lost. That floods, shifting sands, and the rise of new empires buried the truth. Others whisper of a deliberate forgetting, of knowledge too vast or too sacred for the hands of later kings. Whatever the reason, the Sphinx stood waiting, its back still, marked with the memories of water dot. Even today, walking alongside its flanks, one can see the deep channels, feel the worn curves beneath the fingers. They tell of a time before the desert, before history, when rain fell upon the lion's back, and something older than Egypt stood watching the skies. The implications stretch far beyond geology. They suggest that humanity had knowledge, skill, and purpose long before we believed possible. They suggest that civilization may not have started in Egypt or Sumer, but much earlier, and perhaps more than once. We are taught that history is a slow climb from caves to pyramids. But what if it is a cycle? What if we rise, fall, and rise again, leaving behind only stone? The Sphinx may be one such survivor, a relic not of pharaohs, but of a world that came before Dot as the stars return to the sky and the night winds soften. The desert's breath, the lion sleeps once more beneath the heavens. She carries the weight of rain long gone, etched into her skin like forgotten verses. She guards not only the past, but the questions we have yet to understand. And if we listen, not with certainty, but with wonder, perhaps we too can hear the rain that once fell on the lion's ancient back. They left no names behind, no tablets boasting their triumphs, no cartouches etched into temple walls, and yet their mark endures etched into stone, carved into the bedrock of memory. The Sphinx is their whisper, their silence immortal. Who carved this colossal form from the Giza Plateau? Who were the hands that sculpted lion and human into one, with no blueprint and no machines, only purpose? We do not know their names, but perhaps we know their intent. Across time, civilizations leave traces of their architects, those sacred craftsmen who build not just with tools, but with vision. The builders of the Gothic cathedrals called themselves God's masons. The temple makers of India sculpted in harmony with sacred mathematics. The megalith builders of South America aligned stone with star, shadow, and solstice. And yet the architects of the Sphinx are absent from the written record. Their work survives, but their identity does not. Was this anonymity a loss, or was it intentional? In ancient traditions, the most sacred work was often done in silence. The builders of divine structures were not always known because the work was not about them. It was about eternity. The Sphinx is a message left by a people whose story does not begin in the dynasties of Egypt, but perhaps before them, long before them. Some scholars suggest the monument we see today was once far more than a statue. It may have been a centerpiece of an ancient complex, a ceremonial space lost to time, aligned with stars, seasons, and cycles of rebirth, to shape the Sphinx from a single piece of limestone measuring over 240 feet long and 66 feet high required more than brute strength. It required geometry, astronomy, artistry, and engineering far ahead of its time. There is no scaffolding left, no tools buried nearby, no inscriptions to explain the how. Only the outcome remains. Some researchers speculate that these architects were survivors of a lost age, remnants of a previous advanced civilization displaced by cataclysm, that they carried knowledge forward from a vanished world and encoded it into stone. Atlantis, Mu, Zep Tepi, the names differ, but the whispers are the same. A world before our world, a fall before the rise. If the Sphinx predates dynastic Egypt by thousands of years, then its builders may have lived in a time now drowned beneath myth and sea, and yet traces of them remain, just not where we expect. In architecture, in symbols, in alignments with the stars. The builders of the Sphinx understood more than stone. They understood silence. They did not declare themselves in text, because the monument itself was the message. The Sphinx was not meant to be explained, only experienced. It was not propaganda. It was prophecy, a riddle in form, a question in stone. What if these architects were priest-engineers? What if they viewed building as a sacred act, not just to house the divine, but to mirror it? The proportions of the Sphinx align with golden ratios, its gaze fixed on the equinox sunrises of long-lost epochs. Its body follows the contours of earth and sky in ways we are only beginning to understand. Such design does not happen by accident. It is not the work of slaves. It is the work of initiates. Imagine the school of knowledge passed through whispers, not written down but preserved in practice. Imagine builders who viewed stone as vibration made solid, who worked not for kings, but for cosmic order. To these architects, the monument was more than memorial. It was memory itself, a library without shelves, a song without sound, and still it sings. As you stand before the Sphinx today, you feel the hum beneath your feet, subtle, steady, soft. It is not the hum of machines, but of intention. It is the vibration of geometry, of timeless design, still resonating in the silence of the plateau. These silent architects, whoever they were, built not to be remembered, but to help us remember. Their work was not for applause, but for awakening. Tonight, as the moonlight pools around the Sphinx and the air cools with desert calm, we honor not just the monument, but those who made it, those who carved with purpose, who measured with the stars, who asked no praise, and left behind the riddle of stone. They did not speak, but their silence remains unbroken and alive. In the end, the greatest architects do not build for themselves. They build for the ages. And if the Sphinx is their legacy, then they succeeded. They built something we still do not understand. And that is the mark of genius, not just that something endures, but that it continues to inspire wonder. Let the winds settle. Let the stars return to their quiet watching, and let us sit a while with the silent architects who shaped not only the past, but the mystery of time itself. If you stand beside the Sphinx at dawn, before the crowds arrive and the desert fully wakes, you may hear it, not a voice, not a whisper, but a resonance, a soft hum that seems to emerge not from the air, but from the earth itself, a vibration that brushes against the edges of awareness, like the memory of music long forgotten. This is where we begin. Throughout ancient cultures, the power of sound was not simply poetic, it was sacred. The universe, they believed, did not begin with light, but with vibration. In Egypt, the god Thoth was said to have spoken the world into being. In Hindu cosmology, it is the syllable Om that pulses at the heart of all creation. And in the science of today, physicists study waveforms and frequency as the building blocks of reality. Could it be that the Sphinx, carved from bedrock and perfectly positioned, was designed not just to exist in silence, but to interact with sound? Hidden beneath the Sphinx are chambers, both natural and man-made. Seismic studies over the years have revealed cavities and voids, some aligned with the Sphinx's body, others beneath its enclosure. When tones of certain frequencies are played near the Sphinx, some researchers have claimed to hear an echo from deep below, a reverberation that seems too symmetrical, too consistent to be accidental. This raises a haunting possibility that the Sphinx and its surroundings were not just a monument, but an instrument, an ancient machine of stone and silence, tuned to the frequencies of the earth and stars. We know that sound can move through solid stone. We know that vibration can affect matter. We know that the ancients were not unaware of this. At the temples of Abydos and Dendera, there are rooms designed to echo in peculiar ways, whispers that become chants, chants that become thunder. In Peru, the megaliths of Sacsayhuaman seem to ring when struck. In Malta's hypogeum, tones of 110 hertz cause the human brain to enter trance-like states. Sound, real sound, can open doors within us, and perhaps beneath us. Imagine then a ceremony long ago. Initiates gathered at the Sphinx, drums, chants, deep harmonic tones rising from the throat and through the earth, and in response a vibration from the stone, a resonance, a key turning. Did they use sound to access something buried? Did the hum beneath the paws of the Sphinx once unlock the entrance to chambers below? Could the so-called Hall of Records have been sonically sealed, not with bolts, but with frequency? It is not as far-fetched as it may seem. Modern laboratories use sound to levitate objects, to break kidney stones, to shape liquid with invisible waves. Sound, when precisely tuned, can be both delicate and devastating. If a chamber were hidden beneath the Sphinx, its entrance might be designed to open only in response to a precise tone, a forgotten pitch, an ancient song. This would explain the secrecy, why the tunnel was sealed, why the chamber was never entered, not because it is lost, but because it is locked, and the key was not metal, but melody. Some believe this technology once existed in the distant past, what modern thinkers call sonic architecture. Structures built not only to endure storms, but to respond to sound. We can't yet prove this. We may never prove it, but still when the wind moved just right across the Sphinx's flanks, there is a low tone that seems to rise from within. Perhaps it is the voice of the earth. Perhaps it is nothing more than our own wonder, echoing back. But for those who listen carefully, the sound is real. It is soft, but steady. Not made by machines, but by memory. And as we lie beneath the stars, letting our thoughts drift across the sand, we are reminded of something very old. The universe began not with shouting, but with singing. And so perhaps the Sphinx, too, is waiting for a song, a note, a tone, a resonance that will shake the silence and open the way to what lies below. Until then, the sound remains deep, hidden, vibrating beneath the stone lion's chest. Not asleep, not forgotten. Only waiting, before cities, before kings, before even the first temple stones were laid, humanity looked upward. Long before we measured time in minutes or drew borders on maps, we read the sky. The stars were our first teachers. They taught us when to plant and when to harvest, when to rest, and when to pray. They shimmered with stories, with gods and beasts and destinies written in light. And somewhere in that eternal classroom, someone looked up at the constellation of Leo, and then looked across the earth and carved a lion into stone. Tonight, we walk gently into the ancient relationship between sky and sand and ask, was the Sphinx more than a monument? Was it a marker in a star map? Across the ancient world, monuments were built in alignment with celestial bodies. From Stonehenge to Machu Picchu, from Angkor Wat to Teotihuacan, the heavens and the earth were woven together in sacred geometry. Egypt, too, followed the stars. The pyramids of Giza are aligned almost perfectly with true north, a feat of precision still difficult to achieve without advanced tools. But the Sphinx, unlike the pyramids, does not rise to the sky. It stares across the horizon. East. It faces the rising sun. More precisely, it gazes toward the point where the sun rises on the spring equinox, a day of balance between light and dark. But if we go further back, we find something even more striking. In 10,500 BCE, the spring equinox sun rose directly in the constellation Leo, the lion, and it was from the east that the Sphinx, lion-bodied and majestic, looked out across the sand, a lion staring at its mirror in the heavens. To some, this is coincidence. To others, it is evidence of intention, of a design so vast, it stretches across time itself. Robert Bauval, a researcher of ancient astronomy, proposed something remarkable. He noticed that the three pyramids of Giza align almost perfectly with the three stars of Orion's belt. Furthermore, their layout on the ground reflects the position of those stars in 10,500 BCE time, when the Nile, flowing nearby, would have mirrored the Milky Way above. Earth and sky, river and star, lion and Leo. Everything aligned. Could the Sphinx and the pyramids be part of an ancient map, not to a place, but to a time? Perhaps the builders were not only memorializing the stars, they were dating their creation using the heavens as a clock. This would make the Giza Plateau not just a burial site, but a calendar in stone, a message carved into the planet itself. Why 10,500 BCE? It is the end of the last ice age, a time of global shifts, melting glaciers, rising seas, and possibly civilizations swept away by the flood. Many ancient myths speak of a great deluge. Sumer, India, Greece, the Bible, all tell of a time when the world changed. Was Giza built to remember what came before? A memory not just in myth, but in megalith? If so, the Sphinx's fixed gaze is not only a symbol of protection, it is a pointer, a cosmic compass. Ancient Egyptians believed in a concept known as Zep Tepi, the first time, a golden age when gods walked with humans, when the world was aligned, and knowledge flowed like the Nile dot to some researchers. The sky of 10,500 BCE represents this mythical first time, a point in the cosmic cycle when balance reigned. And the monuments of Giza then would not be creations of that age, but recreations, memories in stone, marking the return of light after the fall of an ancient world. Whether the Sphinx was built in that distant era or simply honors it, its position is not random. It faces not only the sun, but eternity, a guardian of time, a clock that does not tick, but watches as the stars move through their ancient dance. Even today, modern astronomers and historians debate the alignments. There is no definitive proof, only patterns. But sometimes patterns speak louder than records. The ancients saw no separation between the earth and the heavens. They believed what was above must be reflected below, and so they carved their myths into stone and their stars into temples. To lie beneath the Sphinx, under the open sky, is to lie between two worlds, stone and starlight, matter and memory. Perhaps the Sphinx is not asking us to solve its riddle, but to remember that we are part of one far greater, the riddle of the cosmos itself. Tonight, as the constellations drift across the sky, know that they were once read like scripture, like prophecy, and the Sphinx still watches, it still points, it still remembers. It is a star map carved into the skin of the earth, and we, for a moment, have found our place within it. Beneath the majestic gaze of the Sphinx, the stories of Egypt's ancient past weave together like threads of silk and stone, stories not only of lions and kings, but of serpents winding through time and myth. The serpent is one of the oldest symbols known to humanity, a creature of mystery, danger, and profound transformation. In Egyptian lore, the serpent was both protector and adversary, embodying the cyclical nature of life and death, creation and destruction. From the serpent deity Wajet, guardian of Lower Egypt and royal crowns, to the cosmic serpent Apophis, who battled the sun god Re-H night to prevent darkness from swallowing the world, the serpent's presence is everywhere. But what does the serpent have to do with the Sphinx? At first glance, the lion-bodied figure seems a world apart from the sinuous coils of snakes. Yet, hidden beneath the surface, the serpent and the Sphinx share a dance as old as the sands. The serpent represents the dual forces of chaos and renewal. It sheds its skin to be reborn, just as the desert reshapes itself with each shifting wind. The Sphinx, a creature of paradox, part man, part beast, stands guard at the boundary between known and unknown, order and chaos. Some scholars suggest the Sphinx was deliberately linked to serpent symbolism, a blending of powerful archetypes, guarding sacred thresholds. There are depictions of serpents on the walls of temples near the Giza Plateau, and serpent motifs intertwine with the lions. Symbolism in royal regalia, the uraeus the rearing, cobra worn on the crowns of pharaohs, is a symbol of sovereignty and divine protection. It is the serpent's head raised in defense of order, striking down threats to balance. Could the Sphinx itself be a monumental embodiment of this protective power? Further, myths from across cultures connect lions and serpents as cosmic opposites. The sun and the moon, fire and water, light and shadow. The Sphinx, facing east toward the rising sun, may represent the power of day, clarity, and reason. The serpent, often linked to the earth and night, embodies hidden knowledge, cycles, and mystery. Their dance is the eternal play of duality. Ancient Egyptians also revered the serpent as a symbol of Kundalini, energy, a rising force within the human spirit, a serpent coiled at the base of the spine, awakening consciousness and transformation. In this light, the Sphinx could be seen as a guardian not only of physical spaces, but of spiritual awakening, a gateway not just to lost civilizations, but to hidden inner realms. In some esoteric traditions, the union of lion and serpent is a symbol of alchemical transformation, the merging of raw power and subtle wisdom, of earthly instincts and divine insight. The Sphinx embodies this union, silent and immovable, yet alive with possibility. In carvings and relics scattered across Egypt and beyond, serpents and lions appear as companions, rivals, and mirrors of each other's power. The Sphinx's very name may hint at this connection. Derived from the Greek sphingo, meaning to bind or to squeeze, it evokes the image of constriction, like the grip of a serpent. Yet, its Egyptian origins suggest a more layered meaning, one that combines protection, mystery, and cosmic balance. Some researchers propose that the Sphinx's role was to guard an entrance, a portal that could only be passed by those who understood the serpent's secret, the cycle of death and rebirth, of knowledge lost and rediscovered. Could the hidden tunnels beneath the Sphinx be linked to this ancient serpent wisdom? A labyrinth not only of stone, but of spirit? The serpent's coil is a spiral, the sacred shape of time, of evolution, of journeys inward and outward. The Sphinx, silent and eternal, watches over this spiral, inviting us to contemplate the mysteries beneath our feet and within our souls. As night falls softly over the desert, the stars twinkle like serpents winding through the sky, and the Sphinx remains, a lion and a guardian, a riddle wrapped in stone and silence. Between the serpent's shadow and the lion's light. In this space between, we find not answers, but the invitation to wonder. To listen. And to dream. There are names that shimmer on the edge of history, half remembered, half forbidden, like distant bells heard through mist. Atlantis is one of them, a city of light, of knowledge, of impossible architecture and deep wisdom, said to have sunk beneath the waves in a single day and night of misfortune. Plato's tale is where it begins, told around firelight in ancient Athens, spoken as memory wrapped in myth. A people who grew too proud, too powerful, and were swallowed by the sea. For centuries Atlantis was dismissed as allegory. But like all good myths, it refused to die. Instead, it echoed, not just in stories, but in stone, Across the world, ancient structures rise that should not exist, pyramids in the jungle, underwater ruins off forgotten coasts, megaliths heavier. Then machines can lift dot and always in odd familiarity in design, as if distant people shared a blueprint or remembered a homeland now gone. Egypt, in this chorus, sings the loudest. A civilization that arose seemingly whole, fully formed, with writing, engineering, astronomy, and spiritual depth from the very beginning. No slow evolution. No primitive preludes, just stone, story, and star. What if Egypt did not invent civilization, but inherited it? What if the Sphinx, its body weathered by time, its gaze older than the pyramids, was not merely a monument, but a remnant? Some researchers believe Atlantis was not just a place, but a mother culture, a cradle of wisdom whose children spread across the earth after its fall. And perhaps, they say, Egypt was one of those children. Plato placed Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules, modern-day Gibraltar, in the wide Atlantic Sea, but others suggest that the term was symbolic, a poetic way of saying, beyond the known. In truth, the memory of Atlantis could lie anywhere under the ocean, beneath the sand, or buried deep in the bones of time. In this light, the Hall of Records said to lie beneath the Sphinx becomes something more. Not just a library of Egyptian kings, but a vault of ancient inheritance, a gift left by survivors, a warning carved in silence. If the Sphinx is connected to this lost world, then its riddle is not one of language, but of origin. Who built the first great monuments? Who taught the sky-aligned architecture? Who mapped the stars and etched eternity into stone? And why did they vanish? Some say Atlantis was destroyed by war, others by natural catastrophe. Volcanoes, floods, a shifting axis of the earth, all are possible. Yet the real mystery is not how Atlantis fell, but how its echo endured. In Egypt's temples, certain texts speak of the first time, Zep-Tepi, when gods ruled, and harmony reigned. Not mythical gods as deities, perhaps, but godlike ancestors, beings of profound knowledge and purpose. Atlanteans? It's a word we cannot say with certainty, but the idea it carries of a wisdom older than known history stirs something deep. In 1991, Edgar Case's predictions and Robert Schoch's geological theories converged. Both suggested that the Sphinx could be far older than convention accepts. Both hinted at a civilization before Egypt, before history itself, and at the heart of that hypothesis, Atlantis. Of course, the mainstream scoffs. Atlantis remains, to them, a parable, but bedtime is the hour of the parable, the soft moment when stories become questions, and questions become paths. The Sphinx may not speak of Atlantis directly, but her silence contains its shape. Her erosion speaks of a climate long gone. Her gaze aligns with stars from a forgotten sky. Her tunnels, sealed, secret, may house relics not of pharaohs, but of a lost age waiting to be remembered. And so we listen. To myths that refuse to die, to stones that hum with memory, to oceans that may conceal more than they destroy. Atlantis may not be a place. It may be a chord struck once in human history, so beautiful, so precise that the world still resonates from its laws. And the Sphinx? She may be the Resonator. The keeper of the tone, the one who remembers. Tonight, as waves lap unseen shores, and sand winds coil through the desert. The echoes of Atlantis still whisper, not with answers, but with longing, and in that longing we find the oldest part of ourselves, the part that dreams not of what is, but of what might have been, and perhaps what might one day return. Not all messages are hidden underground. Some stand in plain view, worn by wind, carved by ancient hands, overlooked not because they are invisible, but because they no longer shout. They whisper, and the desert is full of whispers. Between the Sphinx's mighty paws, nestled like a scroll, at the feet of a sleeping lion, there rests a stone, tall, weathered, and quiet. It is called the Dream Stele, and its presence is a riddle within a riddle. Erected by Pharaoh Thutmose more than 3,000 years ago, this stele, essentially a monumental tablet, tells of a dream the young prince once had. He was not yet a king. He had not yet taken the throne. But as the story goes, while resting in the shadow of the Sphinx, he fell into a deep, otherworldly sleep. In this dream, the Sphinx spoke. Not with a roar, but with calm, commanding purpose. It promised him the crown of Egypt, if he would remove the sand that had buried its body. The prince awoke, and he obeyed. He cleared the sand. He restored the Sphinx, and he became Pharaoh. So goes the tale carved into the dream. Stele. It sounds like a myth, but myths often hide memories, because this stone, weathered by centuries of desert breath, may hold more than just a royal bedtime story. It hints that the Sphinx was already ancient in Thutmose's time. So ancient, in fact, that its full form had vanished beneath the sand. By the 1400s BC, long before the Greeks, long before Rome, the Sphinx was already being rediscovered. That alone whispers something strange. How could the Sphinx be so old that even the Egyptians of the New Kingdom found it mysterious? The Dream Stele stands as quiet confirmation. The monument it stands before was already a relic, but there's more. When viewed closely, the stele shows damage. It's partially broken. The top portion, possibly containing the Sphinx's original name or earlier history, is missing. Was it erosion, or was something erased? Some researchers believe the missing text could have told of a time before Thutmose, before the known pharaohs, before even the first dynasty. Could it have described the true origins of the Sphinx, a link to Zep Tepi, to the gods or ancestors of the first time? We may never know, but the absence speaks. Sometimes what's been removed tells more than what remains. Others have noted the symmetry between the stele and an ancient altar, perhaps suggesting the Sphinx wasn't merely a sculpture, but a place of worship, a temple in open air. The Dream Stele was part of a larger ritual landscape, one designed for renewal, prophecy, or cosmic communion. Then its message becomes even more mysterious. The dream, then, wasn't just political. It was spiritual. A young man sleeps. A lion speaks. A future is promised if the past is unveiled. Is that not the riddle of the Sphinx itself? Buried truths, awakened destinies. The Dream Stele reminds us that the Sphinx is not simply stone. It is memory. And sometimes that memory dreams through us. Some believe the stele's dream motif suggests trance or altered states of consciousness, that perhaps the priests of old entered such states near the Sphinx, seeking visions much like Thutmose. Could the Sphinx have been a sacred oracle? a portal not just of stone and chamber, but of mind. In this way, the Sphinx becomes more than myth or monument. It becomes a mirror of the soul's sleep and awakening dot. We all bury things, truths, wounds, histories, and sometimes the only way to reclaim them is through the language of dreams. Tonight, as sleep draws near and the mind drifts soft and slow, we stand where Thutmose once stood. We close our eyes beneath the Sphinx's gaze, and in the hush between thoughts we ask, what does the ancient lion still wish to tell us? What dreams does the stone still hold? And if we listen gently without noise or demand, might we hear it too? A whisper in the dark offering a crown, not of gold, but of memory dot. Not all secrets are buried in sand. Some lie just beneath the surface, sealed, silent, and untouched. Not for lack of curiosity, but for something stranger, fear. For centuries, legends have swirled around the base of the Great Sphinx, of doorways, of shafts, of tunnels that vanish into the earth beneath the paws of the lion. But even more curious than their existence is who avoided them. The pharaohs, those who commanded pyramids, who spoke as gods, who ordered colossal tombs for themselves, never dared disturb what lay under the Sphinx. Why? The Sphinx, after all, was already ancient by the time of Egypt's new kingdom. Its body buried by desert winds, its face weathered by time. Yet even when powerful rulers restored or revered it, they left the ground beneath untouched dot, as if something sacred or dangerous waited below. Even in our time, the mystery continues dot. In the late 20th century, seismic studies were conducted around the Sphinx by researchers like Thomas Debetsky and John Anthony West. They used ground-penetrating radar sending soft pulses into the earth. What came back surprised them. Beneath the Sphinx were voids, not natural cavities, but rectangular chambers with right angles, with structured dot, and most curious, one such anomaly was found directly beneath the Sphinx's paws. Dot, was it a tomb? A hall? A passageway? Some called it the Hall of Records. Others cautioned restraint. Egyptian authorities allowed limited excavation in nearby areas, but not beneath the paws. To this day, that chamber remains officially unentered. Some say it is to protect the monument. Others believe the restriction is far older than modern bureaucracy. There have always been whispers among Egyptian mystics of tunnels that reach deep, too deep of chambers left not by Egyptians, but by something before according to ancient lore. These tunnels lead to vast underground libraries, places where knowledge from the first time was hidden away, to wait, but only for those prepared to enter, not just physically, but spiritually. In some accounts, those who disturbed these tunnels in antiquity vanished or suffered strange misfortunes. Whether fact or fable, the belief endured. The Sphinx guards not treasure, but trial. She tests the unready. Within the stone lion's shadow, knowledge may exist that reshapes the world. But to find it, one must descend not only into the earth, but into the unknown. The fear was not of traps or curses. It was something deeper, that what lay below would undo everything above. If the Hall of Records is real, and if it truly contains relics from a forgotten civilization, texts, star maps, technologies, then all of human history may require rewriting. And history, like power, is fiercely defended. So the tunnels remain undisturbed, silent, Waiting. It is curious that so many ancient structures contain sealed passages. In the Great Pyramid, there are shafts that run at odd angles. Once thought symbolic, now studied for their acoustic and astronomical alignments. In South America, cave networks twist beneath sacred sites, some still unexplored. In India, temple doors remain unopened due to warnings etched in stone. And under the Sphinx, the same story echoes. Perhaps it is not fear of death, but fear of truth that kept even pharaohs at bay. Because what if the past is not what we've been told? What if beneath the Sphinx is a portal not just to another room, but to another reality? A reality in which time is cyclical, civilizations rise and fall like tides, and knowledge is buried not to be forgotten, but to be rediscovered when the world is ready. So tonight, we turn our gaze downward. Into the dark, we follow the path of those imagined tunnels through limestone and loam, through story and silence. We do not force the doors. We do not break the seal. We simply listen. To the stillness, to the weight of unspoken ages. The Sphinx may never open her paws to us. She may guard that chamber for another 1,000 years, or perhaps she waits for the right question, softly asked. Not by tools, not by force, but by wonder. And when that question is right, maybe the stone will shift, maybe the tunnels will breathe again, and in that moment, the fear that kept pharaohs away will become our invitation. Not to control the past, but to walk alongside it. Quietly. Gently. Beneath the paws of the lion. Above the silent stone lion, the desert sky stretches vast and unbroken, a dark canvas painted with stars, planets, and the slow arc of the moon. To the ancient eyes that gazed upward, this sky was no mere backdrop. It was a living tapestry, a cosmic text waiting to be read. The Sphinx, forever watching the eastern horizon, holds a riddle not only carved in stone, but etched across the heavens. Throughout history, humans have turned their faces to the stars, searching for meaning, for guidance, for truth. For the builders of the Sphinx, the stars were far more than distant lights. They were the language of the gods, the blueprint of creation, and the keys to time itself. The great lion, poised at the edge of the desert, is aligned with the constellation Leo, a mirror between earth and sky. But beyond this obvious link lies a complex celestial puzzle, one that may have been meant to unlock mysteries hidden in both realms. Ancient Egyptian priests were astronomers, priests of the stars. Their temples align with solstices and equinoxes. Their myths tell of celestial journeys, of gods who travel the sky in boats of fire. The riddle in the sky is woven from these threads. How does the Sphinx's gaze connect to cycles greater than a human lifetime? What stories do the stars tell that we have forgotten? Some scholars believe the Sphinx marks a celestial starting point, a moment in time when the heavens and the earth were in perfect harmony, a cosmic genesis of balance and order known as Zep Tepi, the first time. At this moment the sun rose in Leo, the heavens aligned, and life flowed in a sacred rhythm. Yet time is fluid, and the earth's axis wobbles in a slow dance called precession. The stars shift their places, the constellations drift, and the sky rewrites itself every 26,000 years. The Sphinx's riddle is tied to this cosmic dance. It invites us to consider the cycles beyond the human scale, the rise and fall of civilizations, the turning of ages and the hidden rhythm beneath history's surface. One part of the riddle lies in the Sphinx's very proportions. Some researchers point to subtle alignments with the Milky Way, the path of the sun, and even certain stars no longer visible from Egypt. Its position may encode knowledge of the cosmos in stone, an ancient message to be read not with eyes alone, but with the mind and spirit. This celestial enigma reaches beyond Egypt. Other cultures, from the Mayans to the Chinese, have built monuments reflecting the stars' patterns, revealing a shared human impulse to connect with the sky. Perhaps the Sphinx was part of a network, a global lattice of knowledge linking earth and sky. Past and future. In this light, the Sphinx is not just guardian of stone or secret chambers. It is guardian of time itself. The riddle in the sky is an invitation to look upward and remember we are part of a greater whole, a universe alive with cycles and meaning. As night deepens, the stars continue their silent march. The Sphinx watches unwavering, and somewhere between stone and starlight, a question waits to be heard. In the vast expanse where earth meets sky, the Sphinx stands as a sentinel, a guardian beyond time. Neither fully human or beast, it embodies a presence that transcends the ages, watching patiently as centuries unfold like slow-moving waves. Its gaze holds not just the secrets of kings and pharaohs, but the memory of something older, something eternal. Who were these guardians who entrusted the Sphinx with such profound purpose? What hands shaped this monumental enigma? And what truth were they safeguarding? Truth not merely of flesh and stone, but of spirit and cosmos. Across cultures, guardians take many forms. In ancient Egypt, temple guardians were often composite creatures, lions with wings, serpents with human faces, embodiments of the balance between power and wisdom, light and shadow. These figures were not mere decorations. They symbolized thresholds between worlds, thresholds that demanded respect and reverence. The Sphinx is such a threshold, not only a protector of sacred spaces, but a living bridge between human and divine, past and future, seen and unseen. The very concept of guardianship in antiquity was deeply intertwined with cycles of time and transformation. Guardians were not static sentinels. They were active participants in the dance of creation and destruction, guiding souls through trials, preserving wisdom until the world was ready. Some believe that the Sphinx's guardianship extends beyond the physical, that it is a metaphysical protector, a keeper of knowledge encoded not just in stone, but in vibration and energy. This aligns with the idea that ancient monuments served as energetic hubs, places where Earth's subtle forces converged. Could the Sphinx itself be part of an ancient network of energetic guardians, stones placed carefully across the globe to watch over hidden truths? Sites like Machu Picchu, Stonehenge, and the temples of Angkor may share this purpose, their guardians silently echoing one another across time and space. The idea of guardianship beyond death also appears in Egyptian mythology. The soul's journey through the afterlife required protection from dangers and deceptions. Guardians, both divine and monstrous, watched over the gates to new realms, ensuring that only the worthy could pass. In this way, the Sphinx's riddle is a test, not just a puzzle to be solved with intellect, but a trial of spirit, humility, and courage. What does it mean to be a guardian? To stand watch over mysteries you may never fully reveal? To hold space for secrets, knowing the right moment to share? Them may never come. Perhaps the true guardians of the Sphinx are not the ancient builders alone, but all who approach it with reverence and openness. Every visitor, every seeker, becomes part of this continuum, a guardian in their own right, carrying the torch of wonder forward. Tonight, as the desert winds settle and the stars pulse softly overhead, the Sphinx's silent vigil reminds us of our place in the grand circle of time. We are both guardians and travelers, keepers of memory and dreamers of futures, and in the quiet between the shifting sands and the endless sky, we hear the call to listen, to watch, to protect, not with weapons or walls, but with reverence and care, because some guardians protect what cannot be seen, only felt. Some guardians guard not places, but possibilities, and the Sphinx, eternal and still, remains the greatest guardian of all. Not all languages are spoken with words. Some are whispered in wind, etched in stone, or flicker across walls when the sun bends low and the night begins its slow descent. The Sphinx, for all its silence, may speak in this quieter tongue, a language not of sentences, but of shadows. As the sun rises and falls across the plateau, the Sphinx transforms. Its contours shift subtly with the light. Its gaze seems to soften, then harden. Its body, long and still, casts shapes that stretch like the arms of memory. The ancients paid close attention to these daily dances between stone and sun. They watched how light moved, how it touched certain features at precise moments of the year. They knew shadows were not accidents. They were messages. At the solstices and equinoxes, the sunlight grazes the Sphinx in just the right way. At dawn, on certain days, its face glows. At dusk, its body blends into the earth, leaving only its head illuminated, like a thought hovering above the land. Some researchers believe these light play moments were intentional, that the Sphinx may have been designed to interact with the sun, to cast shadows that meant something, like a sundial, like a cipher, like a clock whose hands are made of shade. Could these shadows have been part of a forgotten system, a calendar, a code, a ritual alignment? Mayan pyramids create snakes of light on their staircases. Stone circles in Britain mark midsummer, with perfect alignment. In Egypt, temple doorways frame the solstice sun with astonishing precision. Why not the Sphinx? It sits in perfect orientation facing true east. Its eyes meet the horizon where the sun rises on the spring equinox. That is no coincidence. And so, what of the shadows it casts? Could they have served as triggers, signals to begin a ceremony, to open a hidden passage, or to mark the turning of the cosmic wheel? Shadows also carry symbolic weight. In Egyptian belief, a person was made of many parts: the Ka, vital essence; the Ba, soul; the Ren, name; and the Shut, the shadow. The shadow was not simply a byproduct of light, but a presence, a companion, a subtle double. To lose one's shadow was to lose something sacred. To preserve one's shadow was to preserve one's identity across lifetimes. What then of the Sphinx's shadow? It falls long across the desert at sunset like a stretched guardian. It moves in rhythm with time, like a second self. It may be telling us something, if we are willing to watch. Quietly. At certain angles, its silhouette seems to merge with the outlines of nearby structures, It connects temple walls. It aligns with ancient pathways. It touches stones that have long gone unnoticed. Some believe these fleeting touches were designed moments when one part of the site would speak to another through the Sphinx's shade dot, as if the entire plateau was a language, and the Sphinx's shadow was the ink dot in esoteric traditions. The shadow also symbolizes what is hidden, the unseen knowledge, the inner world, the part of truth not yet illuminated. Carl Jung wrote of the shadow self, the unknown side of our own psyche, where ancient instincts and unspoken truths reside. To walk beside the Sphinx at twilight, to see its shadow fall across the sand, is to walk with your own questions, not for the world, but for yourself. Perhaps this is why the Sphinx has no mouth. Perhaps it does not speak because it reflects. Its silence, its shadow, and its riddle are not there to be solved, but to draw us inward, back into memory, back into presence, back into humility. The ancients were masters of symbolism. To them, a shadow was never just darkness. It was depth. The language of shadows does not shout. It does not persuade or explain. It waits. It moves slowly. It touches what it needs to touch, then slips away. Tonight, as the moon rises and the world dims to soft gray, the Sphinx's shadow lies still. Its message continues, not in light, not in sound, but in shape, a shifting outline, a question in motion, a wordless sentence that asks, what truth lives just beyond your sight? And in that question we are invited not to answer, but to feel. To rest in mystery, to let the shadows fall, and in their quiet shapes to begin to understand the unspeakable. Stone does not forget. It holds time like a deep well, silent, patient, endless. Every grain, every fissure, every worn edge is a story whispered into the endless memory of rock. And nowhere is this memory more profound than in the heart of the Sphinx. For thousands of years, the limestone of the Sphinx has breathed history. It has absorbed the winds of the desert, the heat of the sun, the tears of rain, and the footsteps of countless generations who came seeking answers or solace or wonder. But what exactly does stone remember? Scientists tell us that rock forms, over millions of years, slowly crystallizing under pressure, layering memories like pages of a book. Geologists can read its layers to understand ancient climates, lost oceans, and the movements of continents. The Sphinx, carved from a single ridge of limestone, is a tapestry of such stories, its body etched with the marks of time itself. But beyond science, stone remembers in ways more subtle. It holds the echoes of human hands that shaped it, the intentions behind every cut and curve, the prayers whispered during the slow work of carving. There is a quiet dignity in this. The Sphinx is not merely stone. Shaped into form, it is stone, alive with memory, a monument not only to kings, but to the very essence of memory itself. When erosion soft its edges, some believe the Sphinx was weeping, not in sorrow, but in remembrance. The desert sands, wind-blown and ancient, became its tears. Its face, worn and enigmatic, reflects more than just the past. It reflects the enduring question of existence. Who are we? What remains when all else fades? Some researchers point to the patterns of weathering as clues to the Sphinx's true age, the layers of water erosion hinting at a time when the climate was far wetter. long before recorded Egyptian history. If so, the stone remembers. An age lost to memory. A time when the world was different, yet connected. When civilizations rose and fell beneath skies much like ours, the stone holds a dialogue between past and present. It invites us to touch, to trace its surface with reverence, to listen closely. For the stories etched in silence. Ancient cultures understood this deep connection. For them, stone was sacred. Temples were living beings, and stones were their bones. Carving the Sphinx was not an act of domination over nature. It was a collaboration, a song sung between human and earth, between intention and the slow work of transformation. In many traditions, stones are said to hold memory seeds, tiny repositories of energy and knowledge that awaken when touched by mindful hands. Could the Sphinx be such a stone? A vessel of collective memory, patiently waiting for us to remember ourselves? As the sun sets, the Sphinx's silhouette merges with the growing shadows. Its stone surface cools, and its memory settles into stillness. It invites us to rest beside it, to enter the realm where time folds softly upon itself. And in that quiet, we may begin to hear the stone's song, not in words, but in feeling, a song of endurance, a song of mystery, a song that reminds us, though civilizations crumble, though history blurs, memory held in stone persists. And as we close our eyes tonight, cradled by the desert's breath and the Sphinx's silent vigil, we carry a piece of that memory within us. A whisper from the stone, a promise, a question. What will we remember when the sands have settled and all that remains is stone? Across the vast Egyptian desert, the Sphinx is not alone. Surrounding it, scattered in silent alignment, are statues and monuments, guardians, watchers, sentinels of stone, standing watch through the slow passage of time. These silent watchers hold their vigil, their faces weathered yet unyielding, their purpose etched deeply into the fabric of history. The statues near the Sphinx form a chorus of stillness, colossal figures of gods and kings, each bearing the weight of legacy, each holding a story whispered in silence. They are watchers not only of the land, but of the mysteries beneath it. Together, they form a protective ring, a sacred boundary between the known world and the hidden. Among these watchers are the colossal statues of Ramesses II at Abu Simbel, whose eyes seem to follow the sun, and the statues lining the avenue of the Sphinx, which once connected great temples in a living artery of devotion. Their presence suggests a layered defense, not just physical, but spiritual. Guardianship that spans time, belief, and dimension. The idea of watchers extends beyond Egypt into cultures that share the deep human desire to protect sacred knowledge. From the Moai statues of Easter Island to the stone lions of Asia, silent watchers stand at thresholds between worlds, between realities. Their stillness is powerful. Like the Sphinx, these figures ask no questions, demand no answers. They simply are embodiments of watchfulness, endurance, and mystery. Some scholars suggest that these silent watchers were placed according to celestial alignments, mirroring constellations or cosmic pathways. In this way, they connect earth and sky, mirroring the Sphinx's own celestial riddle. Could these statues be more than monuments? Could they be sentinels in a sacred geometry, stones charged with purpose, placed at crucial points of energetic power The notion awakens the imagination. Silent watchers standing guard over doorways not visible to the eye, protecting knowledge that transcends centuries. And yet their silence holds a paradox. Their stillness is alive, their immobility a force. Visitors who stand among them often report a sensation, a feeling of being observed, held in presence, as if the statues watch not only the world, but the very soul of those who approach. This profound connection between human and stone is a reminder. The watchers are bridges between the past and present, between mortal and divine. In some traditions, statues are believed to house spirits, beings who continue their watch beyond the fall of kingdoms, guardians, who carry the torch of memory and protection. Could the silent watchers of Egypt still hold such spirits? Could their watchfulness be more than symbolic? Perhaps this is why so many temples have remained sacred, why certain places feel charged with an energy beyond explanation. The watchers remind us to be humble, to tread softly, to honor what lies beneath the surface. As night falls, the watchers merge into shadow. The stars wheel overhead, and the Sphinx, at the heart of this silent assembly, keeps its eternal vigil. Together, they form a living geometry of guardianship, silent, unyielding, eternal. They ask only that we see them, not as relics, but as living presences, and in seeing, we too become watchers. Every mystery carries a final whisper, a subtle breath that lingers just beyond the reach of certainty. The Sphinx, ancient and enigmatic, speaks not in loud proclamations, but in quiet echoes that ripple through time, inviting us to listen closely. After all we have traced, the stones, the stars, the shadows, the tunnels, we arrive at a place of stillness where questions settle like soft dust, and the heart opens to mystery without needing to solve it. The final whisper is not an answer, but an invitation to dwell in wonder, to rest in the space between knowing and not knowing. Perhaps the Sphinx guards no door made of stone or metal, but a threshold within ourselves, a portal to a deeper understanding beyond facts and theories, beyond history and myth. It is a place where memory and dream converge, where time folds gently upon itself, and the veil between worlds grows thin. The Sphinx's silence teaches us patience, that some truths reveal themselves slowly, not in grand revelations, but in quiet moments, in the soft pulse of night, in the stillness between breaths. This final whisper is a reminder. The greatest mysteries are not puzzles to be solved, but journeys to be experienced. To approach the Sphinx is to step into the unknown, to become both seeker and guardian, holding the riddle in your own hands, letting it unfold like a slow, endless melody. And as we listen, we realize the portal it guards is not lost. It has always been within us. The Sphinx's gaze, fixed and timeless, watches not just the horizon, but the depths of our own souls. It invites us to remember who we are beneath the layers of time, beneath the sands of history. So tonight, as sleep wraps around you like a soft cloak, let the final whisper settle in your mind. Let the mystery cradle you gently. Let the unanswered question become a lullaby. And know this, the journey through the ages, through stone and star and shadow, leads us home, not to an ending, but to a beginning where the lost civilizations are not forgotten, but alive within us all. Time is a veil thin, translucent, and ever shifting. It drapes over the past, concealing moments in a delicate dance between memory and forgetting. The Sphinx, ancient and inscrutable, stands at the edge of this veil, a sentinel between what is seen and what is hidden. The veil of time is woven from layers of history, myth, and silence. It conceals the origins of the Sphinx, its builders, its purpose, its secrets, just as a morning mist hides the shape of distant hills. Historians lift pieces of this veil with careful hands, texts, artifacts, and runes, each fragment revealing a glimpse, a shadow, a possibility. But the veil is never fully drawn aside. It holds some truths in quiet protection, like a mother guarding a sleeping child. Ancient civilizations understood this deeply. They knew that time was not a linear path, but a spiral folding past into present and future into memory. The Sphinx exists at a crossroads of this spiral. It embodies the tension between permanence and change, between the eternal and the ephemeral. Its very form, a lion's body, a human face, symbolizes the merging of worlds, the threshold between the animal instinct and conscious thought, between the earthly and the divine. Through the veil, the Sphinx watches as ages pass, kingdoms rise and fall, sands shift and settle, languages bloom and fade, yet it remains silent, patient, a keeper of stories not yet told. The veil of time invites us to be gentle with history, to honor the spaces where certainty dissolves into mystery. It reminds us that some answers belong not to facts, but to feeling and intuition. Perhaps the true portal the Sphinx guards is this: the ability to walk the veil with reverence, to embrace the unknown without fear. As night deepens and stars scatter like whispered secrets across the sky, the veil grows thin. And in that thinning, we glimpse the eternal, a timeless dance of shadow and light, memory and dream. The Sphinx stands at this sacred edge, inviting us to step softly into the mystery, to see through the veil, and to remember. The desert speaks, but only to those who have learned how to listen, not in words but in sighs, and the soft shift of grains against stone, and the long, slow exhale of dunes beneath the moon. The sands around the Sphinx have their own kind of memory, a flowing, moving memory, one that does not stay fixed like stone, but remembers in rhythm. For thousands of years the sands have buried and revealed, erased and uncovered. They have shaped the Sphinx not with force, but with persistence. Patient sculptors, rearranging the present to protect the past. Every grain that rests at the Sphinx's feet has traveled far, carried by the wind from forgotten valleys, from ancient riverbanks, from lands that no longer rise on any map. They come to rest here, beside the eternal watcher, as if drawn by some hidden pull, and they whisper of lost priests who once walked in procession, their feet pressing prayers into the sand, of builders who cut limestone beneath a burning sun, leaving behind tools that vanished beneath time's tide. They whisper of ages before Egypt, before names, when stars ruled the earth and memory was kept in ritual, not writing. Sometimes the sands protect. They swallowed the Sphinx more than once, a burial not of violence, but of preservation. When conquerors came, the Sphinx vanished. When temples fell, the desert tucked it away, as if nature itself wished to keep the riddle safe until the world was ready to ask again. And still today the sands return. Even as tourists arrive, as roads and fences are built, the wind lifts and the grains dance their ageless choreography. To the untrained eye, it's chaos. But to the desert, it is scripture. There are those who believe the sands speak in code, that beneath the layers lie buried messages, artifacts, chambers, even entire libraries, that the dunes shift with intention, revealing clues only when the moment is right. Satellite imagery has shown strange patterns, shapes beneath the earth, lines that do not follow nature's hand. What lies beneath? What has yet to be uncovered? The sands, of course, do not say, but they offer hints. A shard of worked stone, a piece of painted plaster, a foundation that leads nowhere. Or everywhere dot the whispering sands tell us this. Not everything ancient is gone. Some things are merely sleeping, and perhaps it is not our job to uncover them all, but to approach. With reverence, with patience, with care. The desert is not empty. It is full of voices, and each grain of sand is a syllable in a story that stretches beyond civilization. Tonight, as the wind picks up and the dunes sigh in their low, eternal rhythm, let yourself listen, not with your ears, but with your breath. Feel the desert speak through silence, through the rhythm of night, through the riddle in the sand, and let it carry you not to answers, but to the sacred comfort of mystery, because some knowledge must not be shouted. It must be whispered like the sands that cradle the Sphinx in sleep. Geometry is the language of the universe, silent, precise, and eternal. It shapes the stars and stones alike, weaving patterns unseen but deeply felt. The Sphinx, poised between earth and sky, is a masterwork of geometry, a living equation carved in limestone, holding secrets not only in form, but in proportion, angle, and alignment. Its very dimensions echo a cosmic order, a design that stretches beyond mere human craftsmanship. Some researchers have marveled at the Sphinx's alignment with the cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, as if it stands at the center of a great invisible cross, a compass for hidden knowledge. But beyond orientation lies a deeper mystery. The measurements of the Sphinx correspond closely to ancient mathematical constants, like pi and the golden ratio, numbers that resonate in the natural world and in the architecture of sacred sites worldwide. These numbers whisper of a knowledge lost and found, of civilizations that understood the harmony of form and function, that saw geometry not as abstract, but as sacred. The Sphinx may have been more than a monument. It may have been a key, a geometric cipher unlocking doors in both stone and mind. This idea is mirrored in other ancient structures. The pyramids themselves are built on precise geometric principles, their angles aligning with celestial bodies, their dimensions carrying encoded knowledge. Even the very site of Giza follows geometric patterns, forming shapes that repeat in nature, in the flow of rivers, in the branching of trees. Some scholars propose that the Sphinx is part of a grand geometric grid, a network of sacred sites spanning continents, each connected through the language of shape and number. These grids may map not only the physical world, but subtle energies flowing beneath the Earth's surface. Geometry thus becomes a bridge between the seen and unseen, the tangible and the spiritual dot. To understand the Sphinx's geometry is to glimpse the mind of its builders, their reverence for order, for balance, for the harmony between human and cosmos. It is also to realize that some secrets are held not in words, but in shapes that speak silently through time. Tonight, as you imagine the Sphinx under the vast desert sky, think of the lines and curves tracing ancient wisdom. Think of the angles that align with stars long vanished. The geometry of secrets invites you to feel the deep order underlying all things, to rest in the quiet precision of mystery. And as you drift into sleep, let the silent equations of stone and sky wrap you in their gentle embrace, a lullaby of form and infinity. Beneath the quiet surface of the Giza Plateau, beneath the paws of the eternal lion, there lies a promise, a hidden chamber, waiting in the silence. This chamber, real or imagined, has captured the hearts and minds of seekers for centuries. It is the whispered goal of explorers, the dream of archaeologists, and the beating mystery at the center of countless legends. What could this hidden room hold? Ancient scrolls inscribed with forgotten knowledge? Technologies lost to time? Proof of civilizations that predate history itself? The very idea of a chamber beneath the Sphinx is a portal of possibility, a gateway not just of stone, but of hope. Early explorers recorded shafts and cavities around the Sphinx's base, but political, religious, and environmental forces have long guarded the site's secrets. Efforts to uncover this chamber have been met with resistance, delays, and questions as old as the sands themselves. Yet the promise remains. Some believe the chamber contains the whole of records an ancient library compiled by gods or sages. Within its walls might lie star maps, prophecies, or the story of the world before recorded time. Others say the chamber is a spiritual threshold, designed not to contain objects, but to serve as a sacred space, a place where the veil between worlds thins. The promise of the hidden chamber is not just in what it might contain, but in what it represents. It embodies the human yearning to know more, to reach beyond the seen, to touch the infinite. The chamber is a metaphor for all the mysteries we carry inside us, the secrets waiting patiently for the right moment to be revealed. To approach it, then, is to embrace patience and respect. The promise is gentle, not a burst of revelation, but a quiet unfolding, a reminder that some doors open only to those who come with humility. Tonight, as darkness deepens and the desert cools, imagine the Fajin, the Sun, hidden chamber, as a space of stillness, a sanctuary beneath the earth where time itself pauses. In that stillness, the Sphinx's promise waits, an invitation to rest, to wonder, and to dream. And as you drift to sleep, carry that promise with you, knowing that some mysteries, like the hidden chamber, are gifts given in their own time. There are questions that echo, not to be answered, but to awaken something deep within us, something older than memory, something softer than thought. This is what the Sphinx offers. Not merely a mystery, but a reawakening of wonder. We began this journey with a question. Did the Sphinx guard a portal to lost civilizations? And though we've walked through stone and starlight, through shadows and symbols, through silence and speculation, we now find that the most important discovery is not beneath the sand, but within ourselves. The Sphinx does not give answers. It stirs the soul. It opens a door not to the past, but to the possibility of wonder, that quiet, sacred feeling, that hush before the stars come out, that breath held before a child speaks a dream, that stillness in which something ancient and gentle and immeasurably vast begins to rise inside you. The ancients knew that wisdom begins not in certainty, but in reverence. To gaze upon the Sphinx was not to conquer knowledge, but to surrender to awe. To feel oneself small, not diminished, but invited, part of a story far greater than any one life, and that feeling has not faded. It lingers still in the desert, wind, and the scent of dry stone and the stars above that have not forgotten. The Sphinx endures, not just as a monument, but as a question too large for words, a question that keeps asking itself in every age, to the curious, the weary, the wise, to the child with wide eyes, and to the elder who remembers how it feels to not know that it reminds. Use that not all doors must open, not all secrets must be spoken. Some truths live best as mystery, and some mysteries are sacred simply because they remain dot in this final chapter. We do not close the book, we simply soften the page. We leave the Sphinx where it has always been, beneath the ever-changing sky, on the edge of shifting sands, with its gaze fixed east toward the rising sun of every tomorrow dot. And we leave this story not with finality, but with wonder reawakened. Let it stay with you in your dreams, in your quiet moments, in the still space just before sleep, because the greatest portal the Sphinx guards is the one it opens in the heart, and once wonder awakens, it never sleeps again.